Hey there, Justin. Hope you're well. Quick update here on the creative brief. I compiled here the creative brief that we talked about and the points we agreed on. And I just wanted to quickly sync again before I showed you the research that I've made. So our milestones were this. We wanted to show a facility, and you mentioned a few styles here from the things from Dead Space, things from Doom, things from Amnesia Revert, and we want to feature them into a few sketches to see what we go forward with. We mentioned some things such as maybe there's a figure there, and that's one thing we can test over the sketches. And for the most part, you've also, yeah, detailed which things you like from each environment. And I've started to compile the base references. My main question would be about the unit, if it's something like this, but I've also started to divide the things that you've liked, such as the terminals from that space. And my philosophy here that I recommend is that we go over that space, but we don't copy it, but we just reverse engineer. That's what I like to do, to reverse engineer the reference that the artist used. So it gives us more ground to be more creative. If we just copy that space, we're going to be limited to what that space did. So what I try to do here is to think what that space was looking at, such as these old terminals and bulky visual languages and things such as like excavators, terminals, and construction site uh, terminals like that, and merging them into making something that could be this in this style. Of course, there's these sci-fi classic things that we can also add, but that will be what I recommend, going over original, authentic reference for the terminals. Then over the grails and the rails and things like that, I've started to nail things on a language. I know this is a share, but these very sharp edges here are some things that I took from Amnesia Revert, from these very same references, just to make things look more aggressive. This was a door that I also was inspired by for making Amnesia. And the things here are just these aggressive lines that read well on the horror design. There's things here like the brutalism that could also be a nice architecture touchstone for the containment unit, and that led me to here, to this rabbit hole of brutalism architecture. And I think the main reference, I was trying to find it, but there was one I really liked. But yeah, this was the first reference that I found on the brutalism. There's this sun structure here that could mean a different culture, because there's these things that are very refined and sci-fi. They're very linear, very slick. But then there's also these sharp things here, almost they're pretty much ornamental. And the openness and the amplitude of the space and how everything's centered could be a point of reference. There's also things like this. This kind of contrasts could serve for the brutalism, these kind of like ample spaces with the structures. In here, it starts to be a little bit gothic. I think we don't want to go that way, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. But that's one way I'll be prepared to go for sketching the architecture itself. This could be like a faction symbol or something like that, like the way the doors are structured there as well. And I've taken that from here, from like the Cabin in the Woods movie, that they also use plenty of brutalism and like sharp angles on the architecture. India could be a good idea to maybe merge both the dead space and the brutalism into like the architecture itself, but it's something that we can play with. When it comes to the alien isolation, mood, and lighting, I was also taking this screenshot from Cabin in the Woods, and this very industrial lighting could be something that fits, or maybe something more colorful, but still moody like this. But this will be kind of like the kind of colors I would go for the alien isolation vibe. And we could test a few of these and see how it could look. Like there's a reference here that I have to clarify. Obviously, I would not do a sketch with a girl on the sci-fi looking elevator. That's not the point. But the point is like these little contrasts of color, like these spots of red and these very grunge green lighting that I think, in my opinion, if you take the girl out of the picture, it does the alien isolation vibe as far as color and light goes. And that's the thing I'm focusing on here. Sometimes these details that you might see may not be, maybe out of context, but the point is to get the context out and add our own context and make the picture work and actually amplify that. This could be like some kind of also brutalist lighting that we could add. For instance, there's this context here that has nothing to do with that, but the lighting is very common in like these crime movies, which may be a way to portray that people there are locked or something like that. Yeah, it's very sharp lighting. When it comes to the creature, I was thinking about getting something like these insects and make them a biped and go from there. That will be the way that I'll be prepared to do the creature, and maybe some kind of body language that's more aggressive like this, maybe some mood like that. But that will be a way that I would, yeah, start to concept that. There's one thing about the containment unit. How much do we want to make it obvious that you are in the containment unit? Because if we, I am forecasting that if we add a lot of environment, if you add a lot of architecture, it means that it's going to be a big space. And it might be tricky to signal both that's very close to the claustrophobic space, but at the same time, there's lots there going on. But that's something I will test and I'll let you know in advance. But in essence, this is just to sync with you, just to make sure that I get everything correctly. And this seems like a good direction that you feel like corresponds to the creative brief. So before I start sketching and go my way and just sketch a few things based on this, I just wanted to pass it to you first, just to save us on possible iterations that will go nowhere later. And all this reference, it's still going to fit here on these milestones and these tasks. It's still supposed to come here and checklist all of this. It's just resources that I found to do that better and support this better. So that's it for me. I don't want to make this too long, but that would be something I would like you to approve so we can move forward. Let me know if there's anything that really feels off or that you'd like to comment or question. I'll be available. Thank you so much. See you soon.